23 unbelievable celebrity romances that defy age gaps, then and now 2026. Hollywood has never stopped people from talking, especially when love crosses decades. Tonight, we look at famous couples whose age gaps shocked fans, tested assumptions, and still left real stories behind. Stay with us until the end and subscribe to Classic Hollywood Legends for more unforgettable then and now stories. Dick Van Dyke and Arlene Silver. Dick Van Dyke had already lived several lifetimes in show business before Arlene Silver came into his world. He was the beloved star of Mary Poppins' The Dick Van Dyke Show and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. She was a makeup artist working behind the scenes when they first met at the SAG Awards in 2006. Their friendship grew slowly. After Dick lost his longtime partner Michelle Triola in 2009, Arlene became an important part of his life. In 2012, they married in Malibu. He was 86. She was 40. That 46-year age gap got people talking right away. Would you have believed this marriage would still be going strong more than a decade later? By 2026, Dick had reached 100, and Arlene was still by his side. Their story is not about trying to look young or prove critics wrong. It feels simpler than that. They laugh, sing, dance when they can, and keep each other company. At that age, maybe companionship matters more than anything else. Heidi Klum and Tom Kaulitz. Heidi Klum met Tom Kaulitz at a time when she was already a mother of 4 and one of the most recognizable models in the world. Tom, the guitarist for Tokyo Hotel, came from a very different corner of fame music touring and a younger German pop rock scene. They went public in 2018, got engaged that December, and married in 2019. Heidi was in her mid-40s. Tom was in his late 20s. That age difference became part of almost every headline. But watching them over the years, the story has been less about numbers and more about how relaxed they seem together. Would that age gap bother you if the couple actually looked happy? By 2026, Heidi and Tom were still together, often seen traveling, attending events and sharing playful moments online. Heidi has said Tom makes her feel accepted as she is. That may sound simple, but for someone who has lived under cameras for decades, simple can mean a lot. Jerry Seinfeld and Jessica Seinfeld. By the time Seinfeld ended in 1998, Jerry Seinfeld was one of the most successful comedians in America. But the next chapter of his life was not another sitcom. It was his marriage to Jessica Seinfeld. Their relationship began in New York and quickly drew attention because Jessica had recently come out of a short marriage. The tabloids had plenty to say, but Jerry and Jessica kept moving forward. They married on December 25, 1999, and later raised 3 children together, Sasha, Julian, and Shepard. Their age gap is about 17 years, but over time that became less important than the family they built. Jessica also created her own path. She became a cookbook author and founded Good Plus Foundation, a nonprofit focused on helping families in need. Could you handle that much public judgment at the start of a marriage? By 2026, Jerry and Jessica had been married for more than 26 years. Their beginning was not quiet, but their life together became steadier than many people expected. Leonardo DiCaprio and Vittoria Ceretti. For years, Leonardo DiCaprio's dating life has been watched almost as closely as his movie career. So when he was linked to Italian model Vittoria Ceretti in 2023, the headlines came fast. The age gap was hard for people to ignore. Leonardo was in his late 40s. Vittoria was in her mid-20s. But she was not unknown in her own world. By then, she had already built a serious fashion career, walking major runways and appearing on Vogue covers. Unlike some Hollywood couples, they have not turned the relationship into a constant public show. They have been seen together at select events including the Met Gala in 2025 and the Oscars in 2026, but they still seem to keep most of it private. Would you be able to date someone famous if every dinner became a headline? That is the part people sometimes forget. the age gap gets attention first. But for Leonardo and Vittoria, the real test is probably quieter, whether two busy people can keep something steady while the world keeps watching. Elton John and David Furnish. Elton John had fame, money, and songs the whole world knew. But by the early 1990s, his personal life was finally becoming steadier after years of addiction and loneliness. David Furnish came into his life in 1993 after they met at a dinner party in London. David was younger, calmer, and not trying to compete with Elton's giant personality. That balance seemed to matter. Their 15-year age gap never became the loudest part of the relationship. What stood out more was how long they stayed together before marriage was even possible for them. In the UK, they entered a civil partnership in 2005, then legally married on December 21, 2014. Could you wait that long for the world to catch up to your relationship? Together they raised two sons, Zachary and Elijah, and worked closely through the Elton John AIDS Foundation. By 2026, Elton and David were still one of the most recognizable same-sex couples in entertainment. Not because they made everything look perfect, but because they kept showing up year after year. David Cross and Amber Tamblyn. David Cross is best known for his sharp, dry comedy in Mr. Show and Arrested Development. Amber Tamblyn grew up in front of the camera from General Hospital to Joan of Arcadia and the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. They came from different generations and different corners of entertainment. David was already an established comedian. Amber was an actress, writer, and activist still shaping her own voice. The two met in 2007, and their 19-year age gap did get noticed. But their relationship never looked like a big Hollywood performance. They dated for several years, got engaged in 2011, and married in 2012. Would that kind of age gap make you question the relationship? In 2017, they welcomed their daughter, Marlo Alice. Since then, they have kept much of family life private. What makes their story work is not glamour. It is two creative people, both a little unconventional, choosing a quieter life together. Kevin Kline and Phoebe Cates. Kevin Kline is the Oscar-winning actor many viewers remember from A Fish Called Wanda Sophie's Choice and The Big Chill. Phoebe Cates became an 80s favorite through Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and Gremlins then slowly stepped away from the screen. They first crossed paths at an audition in 1982. At the time, Kevin was already older and more established, while Phoebe was becoming one of the most recognizable young actresses of her generation. Their 16-year age gap could have become a bigger story, but they did not feed it. The couple married in New York on March 5, 1989, and raised two children, Owen and Greta. Instead of building their marriage around Hollywood attention, they made their home in New York and kept things pretty normal. Would most celebrity couples last longer if they stayed away from the noise? By 2026, Kevin and Phoebe had been married for more than 37 years. No constant headlines, no public drama. Just a quiet marriage that lasted. Bradley Cooper and Gigi Hadid. Bradley Cooper is an actor and filmmaker known for A Star is Born, American Sniper, and Maestro. Gigi Hadid comes from the fashion world, where she became one of the most recognizable models of her generation. Their names were first linked in 2023 after they were photographed together in New York. The age gap was obvious. Bradley was in his late 40s while Gigi was in her late 20s. That gave the tabloids plenty to talk about. But this relationship has not been built around loud public statements. Both already had children from previous relationships. Bradley has daughter Leah with Irina Shayk, and Gigi has daughter Kai with Zayn Malik. That may be one reason they seem to move carefully. Would you want to start dating again with that many cameras watching? By 2026, Bradley and Gigi were still being seen together, including rare public moments around major events. Still, they have kept most of the relationship quiet. No big announcement. No constant red carpet show. Just two famous people trying to keep part of their lives out of the noise. David Foster and Catherine McPhee. David Foster is one of the most successful music producers in America, known for working with major voices across pop, adult, contemporary, and film music. Catherine McPhee first became widely known through American Idol, then continued as a singer and actress on television and Broadway. Their connection goes back to 2006 when David appeared as a mentor during Catherine's American Idol season. At that time, it was not a romance. Years passed before the relationship became public in 2017. The age gap was impossible to miss. David is 35 years older than Catherine, and people had plenty to say about it. Still, they got engaged in 2018 and married in London on June 28, 2019. Would that kind of age difference make you doubt the relationship? In 2021, they welcomed their son, Rennie David Foster. By 2026, David and Catherine had reached their 7th wedding anniversary. Their marriage still gets judged by the numbers, but they seem more focused on music, family, and raising their young son. Hilarie Burton and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Hilarie Burton is best known to many viewers as Peyton Sawyer from One Tree Hill. Jeffrey Dean Morgan built his name through roles in Supernatural, Grey's Anatomy, and later The Walking Dead. Their story started in 2009 when Jensen and Daniel Ackles set them up on a blind date in Los Angeles. Hilarie was in her 20s. Jeffrey was in his 40s. The 16-year age gap was there, but it was not the loudest part of their relationship. Less than a year later, they welcomed their son Augustus, known as Gus. Their daughter George Virginia arrived in 2018. Would you take that kind of leap if the connection felt real? Instead of building a flashy Hollywood life, they moved towards something quieter. They settled in upstate New York, raised their children, bought a farm, and became part of the local community. In 2019, after about 10 years together, they finally married. By 2026, their story still feels less like a headline and more like two people who chose a life that actually fit them. Alec Baldwin and Hilaria Baldwin. Alec Baldwin was already a well-known actor long before this relationship began, with decades of work in film and television behind him. Hilaria Baldwin, then Hilaria Thomas, was a yoga instructor in New York, living a very different kind of public life. They met in 2011, and the relationship moved quickly. Alec proposed in 2012, and they married that same year. The 26-year age gap became an easy headline, especially because Alec was already in his 50s, while Hilaria was still in her 20s. But their story did not stay simple. Over the years, they built a large family together, raising 7 children under constant public attention. Would you want your marriage judged by strangers year after year? By 2026, Alec and Hilaria were still together, celebrating 14 years of marriage. Their life has not been quiet, and it has not been free of controversy. But with so many children at home, their day-to-day reality seems less like Hollywood romance and more like managing a very busy family. Kris Jenner and Corey Gamble. Kris Jenner is the business mind behind the Kardashian-Jenner family brand, a mother of 6 and one of the most famous momagers in entertainment. Corey Gamble is a talent manager who had worked in the music industry before becoming part of her public life. Their relationship began in 2014 after they met at a party in Ibiza. At the time, Kris was entering a new chapter after her separation from Caitlyn Jenner. Corey was 25 years younger, calm, private, and much less interested in attention than the family around him. That age gap became an easy topic for critics. Some people wondered if the relationship would last. Others questioned how Corey would fit into a family already watched by millions. Would you want to date someone when their whole family is a television empire? By 2026, Kris and Corey had been together for more than a decade. They had not announced a marriage, but Corey remained a steady presence beside her. Their story is not quiet because nothing around the Kardashians is quiet. But somehow they have kept the relationship more stable than many people expected. Ice-T and Coco Austin. Ice-T built his name first in hip-hop, then became a familiar face on Law & Order S5U. Coco Austin came from modeling television and entertainment, with a style that always drew attention. Their relationship started in 2001 after they met on a video set. Ice-T was already in his 40s. Coco was in her early 20s. The 21-year age gap gave people something to talk about, and so did their bold public image. But the relationship lasted much longer than many expected. They later opened part of their home life to viewers through Ice Loves Coco, showing a marriage that was loud, playful, and not very filtered. Would you expect a couple like this to last more than 2 decades? In 2015, they welcomed their daughter, Chanel Nicole. By 2026, Ice-T and Coco were still together and still talking openly about raising a child around fame. Their story is not quiet or traditional, but it has lasted. And in Hollywood, that alone says something. Chris Evans and Alba Baptista. Chris Evans is still best known to many people as Captain America, the Marvel star, who became a symbol of loyalty and old-fashioned decency on screen. Alba Baptista is a Portuguese actress who built her name through Warrior Nun, Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, and European film work. Their relationship became public in 2022, but they kept most of it quiet. That already made them different from many celebrity couples. No constant interviews, no daily social media show, just a few careful appearances and a lot of privacy. They married on September 9th, 2023, in a private ceremony in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Chris was in his early 40s. Alba was in her mid-20s, giving them an age gap of about 16 years. Would that difference matter if both people wanted the same kind of life? By 2026, their story had moved into a new stage. In October 2025, they welcomed their daughter, Alma Grace Baptista Evans. For Chris, who had spoken before about wanting family and a quieter life, fatherhood made this relationship feel less like a Hollywood headline and more like a real home being built. Jeff Goldblum and Emily Livingston. Jeff Goldblum has never been a typical Hollywood star. From Jurassic Park to The Fly and Independence Day, he built a career on charm, intelligence, and that unusual rhythm only he has. Emily Livingston came from another world completely. She was a Canadian Olympic rhythmic gymnast, then worked as a dancer and aerial performer. They first met in 2011 at a gym in California. Jeff was already in his late 50s. Emily was in her late 20s. With a 31-year age gap, people were naturally curious and some were skeptical. But their relationship did not look like a publicity move. They got engaged in 2014 and married later that year at Chateau Marmont in Los Angeles. Would you judge the age gap first or the way two people actually treat each other? After marriage, they welcomed 2 sons, Charlie Ocean in 2015 and River Joe in 2017. Jeff became a father later in life, and that seems to have changed his daily world. Less Hollywood noise, more family rhythm. For Jeff and Emily, the story is unusual, but it feels steady. Ewan McGregor and Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Ewan McGregor is known for train-spotting Moulin Rouge and Star Wars, while Mary Elizabeth Winstead built her career through films like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World 10, Cloverfield Lane, and Birds of Prey. Their relationship began in a complicated place. They met while filming Fargo in 2016, and by 2017, they were being linked romantically. At the time, both were coming out of previous marriages, so the attention around them was not exactly gentle. The age gap between them is about 14 years, but that was not the only thing people talked about. The timing, the divorces, and the public photos all became part of the story. Could you build a new relationship while everyone is judging how it started? In 2021, they welcomed their son, Laurie. A year later, they married in a small ceremony. By 2026, their life seemed much quieter than the early headlines. They were still working, still raising their son, and spending more time between Los Angeles and Scotland. Their story is not neat, but real life usually isn't. Miranda Kerr and Evan Spiegel. Miranda Kerr first became known worldwide as an Australian model and one of Victoria's Secret's most recognizable faces. Evan Spiegel built his name in a completely different world as the co-founder and CEO of Snapchat. They were not the usual Hollywood match. She came from fashion, beauty, and wellness. He came from tech, privacy, and Silicon Valley. They first met in 2014, and by 2017, they were married in a private ceremony at their home in Brentwood, California. Their age gap is about 7 years, with Miranda being older. But in their case, the bigger difference was not age, it was lifestyle. One knew red carpets, the other built an app used by millions. Would that kind of different background make a relationship harder or stronger? By 2026, Miranda and Evan had 3 sons together, Hart, Miles, and Pierre. Miranda also has her older son Flynn from her previous marriage to Orlando Bloom. Their family life is mostly kept quiet, and that seems intentional. For a couple with money, fame, and public attention around them, they appear more interested in keeping home simple than making every moment public. Jason Statham and Rosie Huntington-Whiteley. Before they became one of Britain's most watched celebrity couples, Jason Statham and Rosie Huntington-Whiteley were already moving in very different worlds. Jason had built his career through tough physical action films. Rosie was coming up through high-fashion runway work and major beauty campaigns. They began dating around 2010, and the 20-year age gap was noticed almost immediately. Jason was already established in Hollywood. Rosie was still in her early 20s, building her own name beyond modeling. But they never seemed interested in explaining the relationship to everyone. They kept going quietly, got engaged in 2016, and started a family. Their son, Jack Oscar, was born in 2017. Their daughter, Isabella James, arrived in 2022. Would people talk as much if they were not famous? By 2026, Jason and Rosie were still together, though they had not publicly married. That part feels very them. No rush to prove anything. No constant speeches about love. Just 2 people raising children, working, and keeping most of their private life away from the cameras. Jason Momoa and Lisa Bonet. Jason Momoa was still building his name when Lisa Bonet was already a familiar face to American viewers from The Cosby Show and A Different World. Long before he became Aquaman, he had openly admired her from afar, which made their real-life connection even more surprising. They began dating in 2005 after meeting through mutual friends at a jazz club. Lisa was about 12 years older, but the age gap was never the strangest part of their story. What stood out was how different they seemed. Jason loud, physical, and full of energy. Lisa calm, private, and almost impossible to read. Together, they had 2 children, Lola Iolani and Nakoa Wolf. After many years as partners, they married in 2017. Could 2 people that different keep growing in the same direction? In the end, not forever. They announced their separation in 2022, and their divorce was finalized in 2024. Still, their story does not feel like a failure. They built a family, raised 2 children, and appeared to keep respect at the center after the marriage ended. In Hollywood, even that is not always easy. Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones. One detail people always remember about Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones is their birthday. Both were born on September 25th, but 25 years apart. He was already a major Hollywood name from Wall Street, Fatal Attraction, and Basic Instinct. She was rising fast after The Mask of Zorro and Entrapment. They met in 1998 at the Deauville American Film Festival in France. The age gap became part of the story almost right away, but it did not stop them. They married on November 18, 2000 at the Plaza Hotel in New York. Their son Dylan was born in 2000, and their daughter Kris followed in 2003. From the outside, it looked glamorous, but their marriage also went through real pressure including Michael's cancer battle and a brief separation in 2013. Would most couples survive that much public attention and private stress? By 2026, Michael and Catherine had passed 25 years of marriage. Their relationship was never just a simple Hollywood fairy tale. It had age gap headlines, health scares, family life, and a rough patch. But somehow, they kept coming back to the same place, each other. Harrison Ford and Calista Flockhart. Harrison Ford had already been Han Solo Indiana Jones and one of the biggest movie stars in the world by the time Calista Flockhart came into his life. Calista, meanwhile, had made her own mark on television as the star of Ally McBeal. They met at the Golden Globes in 2002. Harrison was older by 22 years, and people noticed. But the relationship did not become a loud Hollywood performance. They dated for years, stayed mostly private, and built a family life around Callista's son, Liam, whom Harrison later adopted. Would a 22-year age gap matter if the relationship stayed steady for decades? Harrison proposed during Valentine's weekend in 2009 while they were on a family vacation. In June 2010, they married in Santa Fe, New Mexico. By 2026, they had been together for more than 2 decades. Harrison still worked, Calista still appeared at select events, and their marriage remained one of the quieter, long-running partnerships in Hollywood. It was never built on constant headlines. Maybe that is why it lasted. Bruce Willis and Emma Hemming Willis. For many viewers, Bruce Willis will always be the tough guy from Die Hard, Pulp Fiction, and The Sixth Sense. Emma Hemming Willis came from modeling and later became a businesswoman, but her public role changed deeply after marrying Bruce in 2009. Their age gap is about 23 years, and at first some people saw the relationship as another Hollywood surprise. But over time, the story became less about age and more about family. Bruce and Emma welcomed 2 daughters, Mabel Ray and Evelyn Penn, adding to Bruce's 3 older daughters from his marriage to Demi Moore. Would most couples be ready for life to change this much? In 2022, Bruce's family shared that he was stepping away from acting after being diagnosed with aphasia. In 2023, they explained the condition more clearly as frontotemporal dementia. Since then, Emma has spoken honestly about caregiving grief and trying to protect their daughters while still honoring Bruce. By 2026, their marriage was no longer just a celebrity love story. It had become a story about commitment when life gets hard, not glamorous. Sarah Paulson and Holland Taylor. Sarah Paulson built her career through strong, intense roles in American Horror Story, The People vs. O.J. Simpson, and Ratched. Holland Taylor had already been respected for decades with work in The Practice, 2.5 Men, and Broadway. They first met years before anything romantic happened. At the time, both were in other relationships. Life moved on, and nearly a decade later, they reconnected in a very modern way through social media. Their relationship became public around 2015, and the age gap quickly became the headline. Holland is about 32 years older than Sarah, and people had opinions right away. Would you let strangers decide what kind of love makes sense for you? What makes their story different is that they have never tried to make it look conventional. They have talked openly about keeping their own space, their own routines, and not needing marriage to prove the relationship is real. By 2026, Sarah and Holland were still together. Not in a loud, showy way. More like 2 grown women who know exactly what works for them.